Bye. All right. Should we go ahead and get started?
Yep, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Juliana Ramirez. I'm a financial advisor with Economic Development Collaborative. On behalf of EDC, I want to welcome you for joining us this afternoon. Claire, our communications director, is not here with us today, so I'll be presenting. Some housekeeping items. Please know that this webinar is being recorded and you'll be able to have access to it on our website. If you are registered, you will also be invited to come back again next week. And if you need any help, please feel free to contact us if you have any questions during this webinar, during this presentation. Please post it in the Q&A. Visionality's team is here to assist us in the back end with your questions. Again, we will have plenty of time at the end to be able to answer as many as your questions as possible. Once again, use the Q&A. If you have any technical issues, please use the chat. Like I said, I'm Juliana Ramirez. I'm a financial advisor, and I'll be sharing information about the available federal relief options, the available state relief options, and local and expanded unemployment benefits. California relief grant window 2 has closed. The application closed on February 8th at 6 p.m. If you have already uploaded all your required documents, there's no action required on your end. However, if you still haven't completed uploading your documents, please finish uploading them. The best tips to help you in making sure that everything is uploaded is by using the link that was sent to you by Landistry. If you are having trouble logging on, it's probably because you are not using the right link. So make sure that you are using the link from the email that Landistry sent you. The best way you can also have a better user experience is by utilizing Google Chrome on your internet browser. You need to upload each entity document. You are going to need to click on each of the titles for the documents that need to be uploaded to ensure that they are being unloaded in the right slide. So in the pop-up window, you're going to find the document that you would like to upload, and you're going to click on that document to then click open. And that's how you're going to be able to upload that document. Once you are there, then you're going to click on the upload button and you will see that there's no change in the colors of that screen. You will need to repeat the process for each document. So again, if you need technical assistance with that, that's where EDC can help you. Another good practice is to label all your documents with the exact same category names to easily identify the documents that you're uploading. And please upload your entire 2018 and 2019 taxes. This, if you are not uploading your documents correctly, or if they're not being readable, or if they or legible, or if you are not uploading your entire tax return, that could delay the process for your application. Then your application then will need a follow-up, and this is where you may still be waiting to hear from Landistry on your application. So make sure that you are uploading your documents correctly, so that everything in your application can be processed correctly. If you need, again, technical assistance with any of this, you can contact EDC. And this is mainly to have, if you have general questions about the program, or if you have questions about the application process, or if you need help completing the application, again, the uploading of the documents, if you need help, um, you know, help with the application in another language, or if you would like resources to help you guide through the application process. And again, because the application process window already closed, now through February 11th, you are going to have time to upload your documents. So if you have questions, uh, other technical issues like you're not able to retrieve your username and password, or you need to find what that information is, or you've already tried and you're not having success with that, then this is where you would want to call Lendistry. They're available Monday to Friday and Saturday as well. So moving on to the additional relief options that there are, we want to just remind everyone that in this second round of the CARES Act, or of the relief programs, Congress' intention was to aid funding to support the hardest hit small businesses and those in underserved segments, including women, minorities, and veterans. The SBA is committed to ensuring the programs are launched as quickly as possible to deliver critical economic aid to America's small businesses and other eligible entities. Um, the loan programs that are available are the Paycheck Protection Program, the debt relief on SBA 7A, 504, and microloans, the EIDL programs, which comes with a targeted EIDL advance, which I will speak about in a minute, and also the Shuttered Venue Operations Grant. Again, the Patient Protection Program, it's aid via a forgivable loan provided through a participating PPP lender to cover employee payroll for a minimum of 60% of the loan and 40% of other covered eligible expenses, expanded and now includes the following: payroll costs, rent, mortgage interest, utilities, operations expenditures, property damage costs, supplier costs, and worker protection expenditures. The debt relief SBA 7A excludes PPP, um, but it's also for 504 and microloan borrowers, and this is debt relief and payments. The SBA is reviewing the Economic Aid Act's additional authorization for this economic aid, and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL. This loan is from the SBA, and is also designed to provide working capital economic relief to businesses currently experiencing a temporary loss of revenue due to coronavirus COVID-19. Now, the grant program, which is the targeted EIDL advance, provides businesses in low-income communities with additional funds to ensure small business continuity, adaptation, and resiliency. The Shutter Venue Grant, or the SVO grant, is for live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organizations, operators, museum operators, motion pictures theater operators, and talent representatives. Total available is about $15 billion for this program. So in talking about the Paycheck Protection Program, the top takeaways is that these are the top um, this is to help expand the PPP eligibility and how funds can be used. A borrower can now select the cover period between 8 weeks and 24 weeks. So in the past, you could only do 8 or 24. Now you can do 8 and anywhere from 8 to 24. It offers a second drop PPP loan option for hardest hit small businesses. It allows for deduction of expenses covered with forgiven PPP loan debt on federal taxes, and an update simplified forgiveness form to include the PPP loans of up to $150,000. These are for those loans that have not been forgiven yet. 86% of the PPP loans submitted were in 2020, where below 150,000. And it no longer subtracts the EIDL advance for PPP loan forgiveness. So the 60/40 spend ratio of payroll to other expenses remains for a PPP loan to be eligible for 100% forgiveness. Now, what is the first PPP loan? The first draw PPP loan. This is for eligible applicants that did not receive a PPP loan prior to August 9th. The PPP loan eligibility now includes additional types of entities. The cover eligible expenses were expanded. I already mentioned those are now include payroll costs, rent, mortgage interest, utilities, operations, operations expenditures, certain property damage costs, supplier costs, and worker protection expenditures. Borrowers can set the cover period to use PPP loan proceeds to be any length between 8 and 24 weeks after disbursement, and certain borrowers may request an increase to their original PPP loan amount. You must have been in business by February 15, 2020, and you must apply on or before March 31st, 2021, or until congressional appropriations are exhausted. The general eligibility for the first draw is for entities with 500 employees or fewer. Certain entities that meet SBA's alternative size standards for profits only or SBA size standards for those particular industries may be eligible to apply. And for housing co-ops, destination marketing organizations, and 501Cs, the size standard is 300 employees. And of course, Section 501(c)(6) organization excludes professional sports leagues and organizations with the purpose of promoting or participating in a political campaign or other activity. Section 501(c)(6) organizations and destination marketing organizations must meet additional conditions to be eligible. Some restrictions, for example, is restrictions on lobbying activities and expenditures. The ones that are still eligible are sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed individuals, business entities, again, like partnerships, corporations, LLCs, etc. And what is a second draw PPP loan? For borrowers that previously received a PPP loan and have 300 employees or less and have suffered a 25% reduction in gross receipts. For most borrowers, the maximum loan amount of a second draw PPP is 2.5 times the average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs, up to $2 million. One thing that I would tell you is I have seen that there has been businesses that had more payroll in 2020 than 2019, and therefore have been able to get a loan bigger, of a larger amount, loan amount, because they are using 2020 numbers. So if this is your case, you are allowed to do that. You have the option to do 2019 or 2020. For borrowers in the accommodation and food services sector, which their NAICS code starts with 72, the maximum loan amount for a second draw PPP loan is 3.5 times the average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll cost of up to $2 million. The second draw PPP loan applicants must submit the information on SBA Form 2483SD, which is the borrower application when applying to their lender. Now, most lenders have their own portal. They have created their own way of how they want you to apply, and therefore have made it a little bit easier for some users to be able to submit all this information. One of the things I can tell you is if you have already applied for a first loan and now you are trying to apply for a second loan, the second loan has been, the process for that has been made easier. Also, something that you must have previously received a first draw PPP loan, and cover periods cannot overlap. So, for example, if on Q3 your gross receipts were $10,000 and in 2020 they were $7,500, the quarters must be comparable. if the business was in business for all of 2020. So you cannot choose quarter 1 of 2019 and quarter 2 of 2020. So you have to use the same period to compare your reduction in sales. Um, Another, additional eligibility criteria is that you must have used or will use the funds, the full first draw PPP loan amounts only for eligible expenses before the second draw PPP loan is disbursed. So you cannot, get another loan before you have exhausted the first loan. You must have not have more than 300 employees, and you can demonstrate at least that 25% reduction in your gross receipts between those comparable quarters. The second draft PPP eligibility, applicants must apply through a participating PPP lender. After the lender approves, then the lender sends the application electronically to the SBA, where a front-end compliance check will occur. This is to reduce incidents of fraud. A time lapse will occur between when a lender submits PPP application information to the SBA and when the SBA provides an SBA loan number back to the lender. And if you've already applied and haven't heard from your bank, this is probably why, because they are taking this compliance check, and they are taking a little bit more time to review the applications more carefully. So just understand that if you've already applied, doesn't mean that you're being denied, or doesn't mean that you know you don't know where they're not paying attention to your application. They're just taking the time to ensure that everything is ready and good to go. So just understand the process. You first need to find a lender, then you need to complete your application, and then the SBA issues a loan number. So that process is what takes a little bit of extra time. March 31st, 2020 is the last day to apply for this type of funding, or for this PPP loan. So if you haven't done so already, you have until then, or until funds are exhausted or have been exhausted. If the PPP loan is not 100% forgiven, just a reminder that you also have to apply for this forgiveness through your lender. Once the approval happens, then the SBA, the lender will submit it to the SBA, and then they will let you know. If these are not forgiven, there is a fixed interest rate of 1% that is non-computing and non-adjustable. No requirement for collateral or personal guarantees, no fees or prepayment penalties, a 5-year maturity for those before June 5th, it's 2 years. Borrowers can ask their lender to extend to 5 years. So if you were one of those first borrowers who had a 2-year term, you can go back to your lender and ask. Every lender, is to work with each borrower. So make sure that you have that communication with them. Payments start once borrower knows how much of the PPP loan will be forgiven, and obviously the lender will notify the borrower. If borrowers do not apply for forgiveness, payments will start 10 months after the last day of the cover period. We want to remind the cover period ends either at the end of the 8-week or the end of the 24-week, whichever it is that you are selecting. There's also for PPP loan forgiveness, you must apply for that loan forgiveness again through your lender, and then the lender will submit it to the SBA. Some updates um, on this particular process is that there's a new simplified PPP forgiveness application, which affects the vast majority, about 86%, like I mentioned before, of the 2020 PPP loans. It is only a few pages long that takes approximately 15 minutes to complete. It includes instructions to help complete it. While accompanying documentation is not necessary to submit forgiveness application, you must retain these for your own records for 4 years, especially if your loan gets or your account gets selected for a review. It may just be a routine review, you are going to be asked for this. So even though this, the latest legislation has simplified the process, and it is really just an attestation that everything that you are claiming on that forgiveness application is true and correct, they will still, and you don't need to submit anything. They're still going to require, in the event that you submit documentation in the event that you are selected for review. And of course, every lender has its process, just like with the application. So if they are asking you to submit that application, that information or that documentation, it would be okay, because they're most likely trying to make sure that they're going to obtain that forgiveness, and they're going to be compliant as well. And every lender receives that, that guidance and notifications from the SBA directly. So they're following what they're being told. And of course, if you have additional questions regarding any of these, of these processes, or you're not clear on how to submit some of this information or where to get that information, well, this is where you can contact EDC to get an advisor to assist you with this. Um, Now, moving on to the COVID-19 Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This is a loan that provides economic aid to businesses experiencing a temporary loss of revenue due to COVID-19. The Economic Aid Act extends the deadline to December 31st, 2021. The use of the proceeds for this type of loan is for working capital and normal operating expenses, such as continuation of healthcare benefits, rent, utilities, fixed debt cost, etc. The terms are 3.75% for businesses, fixed, and 2.75 for nonprofits. It's also fixed. It's a 30-year term, no prepayment penalties. The loans, any loans over $25,000 are secured by UCC filing, which is your property or the business property, like your equipment. Um, and there's $100 deducted from the loan proceeds. The eligibility are qualified small business cooperatives and agricultural enterprises with 500 or fewer employees, or defined as small businesses per the SBA standards, and private nonprofits. These COVID-19 EIDLs are currently available and are low interest, long-term working capital loans in response to the pandemic. Um, so if you have any questions, you can also, check on your EIDL. You can contact Disaster Customer Service at sba.gov for more information on your application if you have submitted one and have not heard. Uh, for the new program, which is the Targeted EIDL Advance, we have talked about this one before. This is a low-income community. I'm sorry. This is a grant that is designed for low-income communities. The new program is going to help balance out a previous EIDL advance to the full $10,000 if the business, number one, is a low-income community. Number two, it has suffered a greater than 30% economic loss. And number three, has 300 or fewer employees. Those who applied for an EIDL advance but did not receive the funds due to lack of funding will receive a full $10,000 if they meet the same requirements above and per targeted EIDL advance funding availability. The SBA will reach out to those who may qualify via email with instructions to determine eligibility and submit documentation. Very important to note. I know that there's been a lot of question about how do we know, or how do you know if your business is, qualifies for this additional money? Well, the SBA is going to be contacting you directly. So there's no application portal, or there's nowhere to go in and apply for this. This is the SBA going through their files or through the applicants and pulling out the information or that data to know which businesses meet the criteria for which this targeted EIDL advance is designed or has been designed for. Um, the items that will be needed to verify eligibility and submit once you are selected or notified are your 2019 federal tax return. So it is recommended you have it on hand when you are applying. Um, and you're going to need your EIN or your social security number as specified in the original EIDL application, your monthly gross receipts for 2019, 2020, and the completed months in 2021. You're going to need to confirm information in the original EIDL application and make sure that it's still accurate. If changes, you may need to, you may be required to submit additional documentation. Um, Applicants that pass the initial eligibility requirement will be required to sign a 4506T for the SBA to obtain tax transcripts before the agency can approve the targeted EIDL advance. Let's remember that this particular EIDL advance or targeted advance is really for those businesses that have been impacted the most and are in this, in that low income areas. Also, the process of that, um, the process for that EIDL advance application is going to have 23 yes or no questions that must be completed. The applicant also must confirm information again submitted for the EIDL advance program, as well as a monthly gross receipts for 2019 and 2020. Bank account information, you need to have the information confirmed and ready, like your official bank name, your checking account information. You must be in business in a legal name. If you have a fictitious business name, you must have that business legal name. So if you are doing business legally with you personally, and then a DBA, you must have the information of how you applied for the EIDL loan. You need your address and phone number, and they also need to match what was entered in the application. And the account number and routing number will also need to be um, um, verified. So if you're approved, you will receive an email and an ACH deposit to the bank account provided. Make sure that you note that email address um, on the slide so that you can contact the SBA if you have more questions that are not clear yet. Um, Another program which we talked about a little more, and the SBA is working in providing a webinar or facilitating a webinar that will be more in detail to participants. We will be sharing the information later on through an e-blast so that we can tell you when that's going to happen. However, what we know so far is the application is not yet open. And another thing that we have now learned too is that you will need a SAM certification. And to to make sure that everybody understands, you will go to the sam.gov website to get that registration, and there is no cost to obtain that registration or that certification. So again, this shorter venue operations grant is the eligible entities are live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organizations, and motion picture theater operators, the relevant museum operators, zoos, and aquariums who meet a specific criteria, talent representatives, up to 5 business entities owned by an eligible entity that also meet the eligibility requirement. Plus, you must have been in operation as of February 29, 2020, and the venue or promoter must not have applied for or received a PPP loan or on or after December 27. I know if you applied if you applied for a PPP and were declined after December 27, you are still eligible. But again, only if you are declined for a PPP loan. So if an entity applies for and is approved and receives it, then receives a PPP loan, then you're not eligible for an SVO grant. So the way that to determine the amount, you must be in operation on January 1st, 2019. Uh, the lesser of an amount equal to 45% of their 2019 gross earned revenue or $10 million. If you began an operation after January 1st to 2019, then the lesser of the average monthly gross revenue for each full month you were in operation during 2019 multiplied by 6 or $10 million. Um, what once again, I do want to reiterate that you do need to get registered in the federal government system for award management. That's what that SAM stands for, as this will be required to receive this grant. And the SBA is committed to ensuring the relief programs launch as quickly as possible to deliver the critical economic aid. This is general basic overview, but all inclusive of the details of the new and current economic aid available or coming available for small businesses and other eligible organizations. You can find that information at the sba.gov coronavirus relief. Which will be, updated, or it's updated constantly. One thing to note here is if you are having trouble understand how you could apply for, which if you should apply for the grant or if you should apply for the PPP, just know that if you are applying for a PPP and it's a first draw, the borrowers may be eligible to apply for a second draw of PPP. However, for the shuttered venue operations grant, you may apply for it only if you received a loan prior to 12/27/2020. You may also apply for an EIDL, but it cannot be used for the same purposes. So just understand how these all, correlate. If you are applying for a shuttered venue grant, then you're not eligible to apply for a PPP. You may be eligible to receive a supplemental SVO grant, and you may also apply for an EIDL, SVO, and EIDL, but it cannot be used for the same purpose. As far as the EIDL loan, you may apply for a PPP and EIDL, but you cannot use the proceeds for the same things. You may apply for an SVO, EIDL, and SVO grant, but it cannot be used for the same purpose, and the same business cannot apply for more than one EIDL. So just keep in mind what the purpose of each of these programs is, and which one you will be and how you will using those proceeds. The SBA is also providing debt relief and payments on SBA-backed loans. The amount of the additional assistance will also depend on the availability of funds. Community Advantage type A, like 7A loans or microloans, as well as loans to borrowers with certain ACIA's codes get longer debt relief. So make sure that you check with your lender to see what type of of loan you have. If you had a loan prior to the pandemic that was an SBA backed loan, make sure that you check with your lender to verify. And again, certain community advantage loans have a longer period, so check that information with your lender. So once again, just remember that there are several programs, the loan programs and the grant programs, and understand the difference between them. There is also still the Elaine F. Stepnack Foundation Restaurant Fund in Santa Barbara for Santa Barbara businesses, which offers up to $10,000 per grant based on the number of qualifying applicants. Check that out as well. The expanded unemployment benefits, again, we don't have much updates. The latest information is posted on the EDD website. And if you are still looking, if any of the programs we shared are still, you're not eligible, or they're not something that are, it's working for you, or you're still looking for additional funding, then, maybe consider the EDC Disaster Loan Fund. This is in addition to our traditional EDC loan funds. We are offering a 4.25% interest loans from 5,000 to 50,000 through our disaster loan to give a cash flow boost to businesses impacted um, by the reduced sales, supply chain disruption, or other challenges related to COVID-19. The first 3 months are interest only, and it's a 48-month term loan. We've also has their Weave Restarts loan program. So we would, in addition to the regular funding program. So check out weaveonline.org for more information and to contact them and see if you qualify for that. You can also check this link, sba.gov/COVID-19 funding resources for additional funds available. Maybe if any of these programs is not, this could be one that you can check out if there's other programs that you may qualify for or take advantage of. If you have additional questions, just remember that we have all the detail of our local, state, and federal benefits available. You can visit our website at edcollaborative.com/COVID-19 and our business resources guide. Um, we update it constantly. And if you need assistance, not just with these programs, but with any other aspects of your business like finance, marketing, operations, legal, or human resources, if you have questions or concerns, you need guidance as to what to do, how to do it, please contact our hotline. We have our Spanish hotline and our English hotline to then be paired up with an advisor. We also want to remind you that the fact that you're here, that you've registered for our events does not make you a client. However, if you contact us, then we can get you through the process and sign you up as a client so that then you can take advantage of these resources or of these no-cost consulting. So again, registering for our events does not automatically make you a client. However, if you call us and go through our intake process, which takes a few minutes, about 10-15 minutes of your time to go through that process, so that we can pair you up with the advisor that that can best help you and assist you. Again, don't forget to contact our hotline. Okay, I think I went through a lot kind of quickly. Let's see. Cecily, I apologize. I don't think I introduced you.
That's all right. Thank you so much, Juliana. That was great. Everyone, my name is Cecily, and I will be reading your questions off to Juliana. So if you have any just general questions about some of the content that she just went through, please be sure to post that in the Q&A chat and not the regular chat so it doesn't get lost. So I will kick us off. Allison asks, if we received the PPP and it was forgiven, how do we show this on QB, which I presume is QuickBooks?
QuickBooks. Okay, so if you were forgiven last year, then you would have debited your liability account, right? Because when you first received it, you credited it, so you would debit that, and you would show the forgiveness portion as another income. So I would make sure that you do a journal entry to debit that liability account that takes it out of your balance sheet, and you put it to other income. You're gonna credit other income, and that other income, I would call it PPP forgiveness. That way it's very clear and your tax accountant knows what to do with that.
Great, thank you. All right, Allison also asks, we received the second PPP. What are the main rules on this one? I believe you went through some of that in your presentation. She says, I understand we cannot file for the employee tax credit during the same quarter we use the PPP funds, correct?
That is correct. So you would, so the best way, if you receive the second PPP loan, what I would advise or recommend is that you first use those funds, meaning you're gonna run payroll for 8 weeks or 12 weeks, however long it takes you to use up those funds. And after that, then you kind of start taking, start counting again to be able to then receive, apply for those credits or um, um, claim those credits on your 941. So if you received it in this first quarter, you probably are going to need to wait until the second quarter. Also, if you receive, if you, let's say, exhausted your first PPP funds last year, and let's say it was at the end of the second quarter that you exhausted those funds, but then you have the third or the fourth quarter that you didn't have PPP, you can apply or claim those credits. And I had in the past shared that you can do that through the through Form 7200 to claim those credits. And that's kind of like an advance of those credits.
Excellent. Thank you, Juliana. All right. Gary asks, I am a sole proprietor with no employees. I am collecting unemployment. Can I still apply for PPP for my lost income?
So you can apply for PPP, however, you cannot obtain unemployment and PPP at the same time. So if you apply for PPP, then what you can do is you can, when you report to EDD, you're gonna report that you received, pay from your PPP funds. Not that you received the PPP funds, because maybe you are not gonna pay yourself the entire amount in one cut per se, but you do need to report that you did receive that income.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
But you can apply. I would say you can apply for both. You just need to make sure that you report it accordingly to EDD and that you're not using both at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Katie has a question about the county. She asks, have you heard any recent news of the County of Ventura relaunching another grant program? The County Board of Supervisors provided approval on January 12th and authorization to sign an agreement with a vendor to administer the program January 26th. I cannot find any final approval or sign up details.
Yes, there's no information available yet. I'm pretty sure that's gonna come out soon. So this is where, if you are signed up to our e-newsletters or to our newsletters, we will be sure to let you know when that's available. And as you know, we try to, have that information, out as quickly as possible as soon as we have it. So not at this moment.
Yeah. Brianne, do you mind dropping that in the chat one more time to sign up for the newsletter? Thank you. All right, let's see. For the Lendistry grant, do we need to upload 2018 and 2019? I thought it said we could upload either one.
It's either one. So if, and also remember, when you completed the application, it asks you what your annual revenue is. So if ideally you should have put the number from your 2019 or 2018 taxes, which then that's what they're going to look to verify that the information you provided to them is accurate. If you, let's say, use 2018 numbers, but you uploaded 2019 and they do not match, this is where there may be a delay in the process. And that's part of the validation. So I would suggest that you, that you upload the document that corresponds to the numbers or the figures that you upload, that you inputted in your application. But yes, you can do either or.
All right, thank you. This next one is a long one. We received PPP round 1 and continue to keep 10 employees. After the end of the 24-week period, we ran out of funds and were forced to lay off 7 employees and reduce hours for the remaining 3. It's unclear on the PPP round 2 application if we can apply with just the remaining 3 employees. Or if so, how do we calculate the requested loan amount, etc.? Any advice on this?
So the truth is that you can apply for the loan based on your 2019 numbers. So obviously your 2019 numbers are going to be high compared to your current 3 employees. The key here is that if you do obtain the full amount based on your 2019 numbers, that you are able to exhaust the funds within the 8 to 24 weeks. Right? Otherwise, if you think that you're not going to be able to exhaust the funds, then you do have the ability to request a different amount on the application. So again, you can request the full amount based on your 2019 numbers, applied saying, or stating the truth, which is your 3 employees at the moment. Just make sure that when you are using the funds between the 8 and the 24 weeks, that you're going to be able to use the funds. And I mean, for most businesses in that situation, because you're not the only one with that situation, most businesses, it's actually kind of like a plus that they're able to use 2019 numbers, even if they have less employees now. And this is where using the 24 weeks versus the 8 weeks of the pay period makes sense. Some can use it within the 8 weeks, but some do need the additional time. So I would say even if you only have 3 employees, but you would be able to exhaust them within those 24 weeks, use the 2019 numbers and get those funds that way.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. All right, 3 questions left. If anyone else has any more, please drop them in the chat. Charlene asks, for EIDL, can we apply for the grant only, or do we have to apply for a loan also?
So the EIDL grant is not, so the targeted EIDL advance, which is a grant, you cannot apply for that on its own. That is for those businesses that already applied in the past, that they either only received a portion of those 10,000 or who didn't receive it at all because there were no funds for the advance anymore. The way it was at the beginning is you would apply for the loan, and as part of the loan process, you would get an advance. And then by the time you were told if you qualify for the loan or not, if they told you, yes, you qualify, you had the option to accept or decline, but still keep that advance. However, now with this, there's no EIDL grant on its own, not anymore. So that's why the targeted EIDL advance is just to it's kind of like to reconcile those businesses who, again, meet the criteria of low income, minority, and those specifications that I shared earlier. Very important to know that it's mainly designed for those. That's why it's called the targeted EIDL advance, and you won't be able to apply just for that on its own.
Great, thank you, Juliana. All right, Olga asks, if we have an EIDL obtained in 2020, are the funds received on SVOG limited to different use than that of the 2020 EIDL?
No, they are not a different use. You just cannot use it for the same purpose. And what we mean by that is you cannot say for the EIDL loan, if your account were to be, selected for review, you cannot say that, let's say in May of 2020, you use EIDL funds, and then of May of 2020, you also use the SVO grant. Or let's just use a more recent date. Let's say that you do get the SVO grant and you use it, let's say in April of 2021, and you still have funds from your EIDL loan, and you use it in April as well, you cannot say that you use it for the same purpose. So maybe the SVO grant can be for your, for your operators, for your independent contractors, and then the EIDL can be for your rent or for your other goods. So as long as you're not using it for the same purpose or claiming that it's being used for the same items, then you should be good.
Great, thank you. All right, we have 2 more. Paul asks, I applied for the California Relief Grant. When do I get an answer?
So notifications will start going out on the 11th. So if you applied for the first round, you should have already been notified what step in the process you are, either if you were selected, not selected, eligible or not eligible. So obviously, depending on when you applied. If you applied for the second round and you haven't heard, the application just closed on Monday. So it is going to take a couple of days before those selected in this second round would be notified. So depending on when you applied, you should be hearing from them, after the 11th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Charlene has one more question. So we only received $1,000. So can we call SBC to see about getting $9,000?
So unfortunately, there's nowhere to call to find out if you will be receiving or if you're able to receive the additional 9,000. Excuse me, like I shared before, the SBA has specifications as to how they determine who are, part of the low income, the most impacted, the minority businesses. They have that information internally, and they are the ones that are going to be reaching out to those recipients or those eligible recipients. So unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to call, or nothing you can do to call and ask if you will be able or if you're eligible. You're going to need to wait for them to contact you if you are one of those eligible recipients.
Mhm. Great, thank you. All right, we got a couple more. I see one here in the chat. When is the due date to apply for the PPP loan forgiveness from last year?
So the due date is 10 months after the end of your covered period. So know what your covered period is. That is usually 8 or 24 weeks from the date that you receive the funds. So if you receive the funds, let's say on May 5th, then your due date may be like October 16th. So that is, the 24 week, or if you did the 8 week, then it's going to be more like July, I believe. So
Yeah.
depending on what your cover period is, from the end date of that cover period, that's when you have 10 months from that date to apply. So again, if your end of the period was, let's say, sometime in October, then you have 10 months from that date to apply for that forgiveness.
Great, thank you. Two more just came in. One from Paul. Last year I applied and was approved for the EIDL loan. I did not take out the loan. Can I apply for the EIDL grant now? Where do I start?
Unfortunately, the grant, like I said, the targeted is only for those businesses that have already applied in the past and have been identified by the SBA as the targeted audience or the targeted. So you won't be able um, to apply again. You just need to wait for the SBA to see if even though you didn't, you know, even though you didn't take out the loan, if, they will still be providing you the grant. But it is a matter of waiting for the SBA to contact you.
Yeah, thank you. One last question from Olga. Is the employee RTC only as it relates to employees who have COVID?
No, it's not just for employees who have COVID. And what I would suggest is that if you have a payroll provider, or if you're doing your own payroll, then I would seek the guidance of a professional payroll service. Or, if you have just, more questions related to the ERTC credit, it would be best that we look at, your situation and what exactly it is. But usually your payroll provider can tell you, how to complete that, how to claim those credits in your 941 form, or do the advance.
Yeah. Great. Well, that was our last question. Olga says, thank you, Juliana. You're the best. Well,
Thank you.
So much for sharing your wealth of knowledge and answering these questions today. As everyone saw, there's a lot of resources that have been dropped here in the chat. So please make sure to take advantage of those resources. Anything else for today, Juliana? Thank you so
No,
much.
I just want to remind everybody that you're not alone in this. And I know that there's, things can be confusing, and there's so much information out there. Number one, keep a good relationship with your lender or with your bank, because they're usually the ones that are going to be reaching out to you to either invite you to take advantage of one of the programs. Make sure that your information is in order. In this case, your taxes are filed. I would, with some clients that we've met with, we've encouraged them to file their taxes on, early, so that they have that documentation ready, especially if there's really nothing that they have to wait on for last year anymore. If 2020 is done, then file your taxes on time, particularly because, as we saw last year, those that took advantage or were able to take advantage of these of the programs were those that were ready with their documentation. So make sure that your files, your taxes are filed, that your business license.
Oh no, it looks like Juliana froze.
Your numbers.
You froze there for a
Oh, I
second.
froze there for, to validate the numbers and the information that you are being asked of. It is so important to obviously keep your books up to date and also, have a very good handle of where you stand financially so that we can take, you can take advantage of these programs. We cannot stress that enough. And again, if you're struggling with any areas in your business, not just, financial, but also other areas, maybe, marketing is something you want to look at to see how you can, find other ways that you can promote your business. We saw that with restaurants. They were, a lot of restaurants were not signed up for the, for the curbside service. And when they did, we were able to see how they were able to not go back to regular, income, but it significantly helped them. So those are just different things that you may want to think of as you are, working on your business. So make sure that you reach out to us.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Oh, we got one last question from Paul. Can you please clarify which grants are taxable? PPP, city, county, etc.
Yeah, so the PPP is not it's not a taxable income, and the best person to assist you with ensuring how you are going to be impacted by any of these grants is your tax accountant. So I would encourage you to make an appointment with your tax accountant, go through the list and say this is I got a PPP, I got the city, and I got the county. So an example for the California grant, it is taxable. So you are going to, report that as other income in your taxes, and it is going to affect your taxes. So again, the PPP is not the city. Yes, most likely the county. Yes, most likely the California. I mean, anything, usually any local or state, most likely. But again, talk to your tax accountant because depending on your structure and how, it is reported, it may or may not affect you, negatively or positively. So positively. So you can tell English is my second language, right?
All right, well, we're at 12:59. Thank you so much, Juliana, for sharing your wealth of information. You're always so wonderful. And thank you all for attending today. As she said, you're not alone in this. We're here. I believe EDC has some other upcoming free webinars, so please be sure to sign up for the newsletter to get those notifications and take advantage of the resources that are offered.
And remember, it's no cost, no cost consulting. So remember that.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Cecily. And say hello to Emily for us. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
Right.
Take care. Bye-bye.